Some fates are forged in fire. Alara stumbled through the bustling festival of Eldoria, her heart a rapid drum in her chest. The scent of frying pastries danced in the air, laughter ringing like sweet music. For a moment she forgot. The burdens of her life, poverty, loneliness, slipped away, at least for a heartbeat. She dipped into the crowded marketplace, alive with vibrant colors, merchants shouting, cheer filling every corner. But then, something caught her eye, a glimmer beyond the stalls. Her feet led her forward, driven by an inexplicable pull. It shimmered just out of reach, an object steeped in legend and mystery. She knew it, the supreme staff. Its presence exuded a thrumming energy. Each step she took, the charge in the air grew, crackling with potential. The festival faded. Colors turned muted against the growing urgency inside her. When she reached out, fingers brushing against the staff's weathered surface, everything changed. A jolt, no, a surge of raw energy coursed through her like fire through wood. It felt as if the very essence of magic poured into her veins, igniting something deep within her. Instantly, a bond formed, irreversible, fierce. Power flowered in her soul. She gasped, breath stolen, eyes wide. In that moment, she wasn't just Alara, the commoner lost in a kingdom of disparity. She was someone more, someone special. How was it possible? What could this mean? The questions danced like fireflies around her thoughts, elusive and tantalizing. Was she worthy? The buzz of the festival returned, pouring back over her like water. With her heart racing, she stepped back, heart pounding. Awareness flooded in. The eyes of the surrounding festival-goers were now drawn to her. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Recognition of her newfound power ignited interest, and she could feel their intrigue like a tide pulling her in. But it was undeniable. A flicker of dread flared in her chest. Was she prepared for this change? The supreme staff, an ancient relic, could grant her unimaginable strength, but it could also become a curse. What would she do? How would she shape this power? In the distant seat of authority, King Theron felt the tremors of change. He sat, cloaked in shadows and scars of 415 years spent pursuing unity, years marked by the suffering of his people, driven by a dream of peace. But the council's whispers echoed around him, relentless and gnawing. Betrayal and greed had become constant companions. When he heard the news, someone had found the supreme staff, he felt dread ignite in his chest. A commoner wielding a weapon of such power? Unthinkable. It struck at the very core of his mission. The battle for unity hung in the balance, and losing control over the staff to a figure of the lower class could unravel everything he had strived to achieve. His fingers clenched around the armrest of his throne, knuckles pale, heart warping with frustration. If the council got wind of this, they would exploit her. They wouldn't just want the staff. They would seek to turn Alara into a puppet, a pawn in their games of power. Could he allow that? The answer gnawed at his gut, twisting like a knife. Failure was unacceptable. Time slipped away like grains of sand through fingers. Alara's mind spun with both excitement and fear. She found herself drawn back to the staff, an irresistible magnet, but a darkness tugged at her thoughts. How could she control this? What if it consumed her? Old dreams wrestled with reality. The allure of power was intoxicating, yet it felt like a thin line between domination and destruction. What did this all mean? Who would stand beside her as she navigated this dangerous path? As she moved through the festival once more, seeking solace, each glance from onlookers felt heavier. Voices echoed in her mind. Be careful. It was then she sensed it, the weight of attention shifting. Cloaked figures, shadows that mingled among the crowd. Theron's agents. They had come, frowning, veils of secrecy wrapped around their intentions. One loomed close during a fateful gathering. His presence was magnetic, yet overwhelming, a dark void that both intrigued and terrified her. Caught in his gaze, Alara felt something shift. The air thickened with tension. Excitement buzzed in her veins. What did this encounter mean for her? For him? Could she trust him? The night unfurled, darkness squirming with unanswered questions and burgeoning fears. Her heart raced in tandem with the chaos brewing inside her, mystery and power combined, forging a new fate. but stumbled into the unknown, the path lit by a flame of her own making. Could she grasp it? What awaited her in the shadows? Alara stood on the precipice of change, the festival fading behind her. The chilling night air slipped through the crowd, whispering secrets while her mind raced. She needed to understand what was happening to her. She needed context. Meandering through the crowded streets of Eldoria, she recalled her life before this chaos. Ilara had been an orphan, cast aside by fate at just 16. The fire that consumed her family had left her with nothing, no riches, no legacy, only the streets, teeming with others like her to navigate. She had become a servant, working in the homes of the wealthy for scraps of bread. Years passed, each day a brutal struggle. She had worked her way through the ranks, starting in the filthy kitchens, then making her way to washing linens. Menial tasks, yet they kept her alive. As she reminisced, the weight of her past twisted her gut, but survival had honed her instincts, taught her resilience. Then, one fateful day, she ventured into the market, hunting for bargains. It was where she first heard whispers about the Supreme Staff. Legends spoke of its power to change the course of history, to grant unimaginable abilities to the chosen bearer. Might it be lurking within her reach? Yet the bitter truth lingered. That very power could just as easily destroy her. She had seen power corrupt those who had it. The wealthy barons and noblewomen in whose homes she worked. All they cared about was wealth and status. They hardly recognized the existence of those beneath them. It was sickening. King Theron, cloaked in his own complexities, faced an entirely different reality. Bound by duty, he had spent centuries desperately trying to unite the Lycan and the Omegas, races torn apart by despair and neglect. He came from a long line of leaders plagued by the weight of leadership, each hoping to change the kingdom's fate. Sitting in the castle chamber, the king reflected on his challenges. The council was suffocating. Their greed simmered beneath the surface. The whispers gnawed at him. He had lost too much already. His family, his faith in those he had once trusted. And now, the Supreme Staff could slip through his fingers too. But Ilara's emergence sparked something else, a flicker of hope, mixed with dread. She was not just a bearer of the staff, she was a beacon, a living embodiment of the change he sought. Yet acceptance of this radical shift filled him with uncertainty. Could she wield this power wisely? The moment he learned of her connection to the staff, dread coiled in his gut like an iron serpent. She would need protection, shielding her from the treachery of the council. They smelled weakness and would exploit it without hesitation. Betrayal ran rampant in Eldoria. He had to tread carefully. Days turned into a whirl of magic for Ilara, a blur of echoes and visions, swirling around her like mist. The Supreme Staff hummed in the back of her mind, a constant reminder of her new reality. Each night, dreams flooded her sleep, shadows dancing, flames igniting within her, calling her to embrace the power she barely understood. But in broad daylight, she stumbled, often tripping over her newfound abilities. Spells unintentionally unfurling in fierce bursts during the simplest of tasks. One time, while washing dishes, a wave of energy belched from her fingertips, shattering every glass before her. Fear coiled in her throat. What if she hurt someone? What if she lost control altogether? The haunting whispers of the council, their hunger for power, their schemes and plots, kept her on edge. She couldn't shake the feeling of their eyes on her, scrutinizing her every move. Her nights were haunted by dreams so vivid they seemed real, filled with flames that reflected her inner chaos. It was during one such gathering, a festival they held to celebrate unity, that Theron's agent stalked her closely. She felt them, always watching, shadows lurking in her periphery. Then, there he was, the figure from her chaotic encounter, his presence magnetic, yet dangerous. Theron stood before her, a king draped in command, but uncertainty flickered in his stormy eyes. "What do you want from me?" she blurted out, the tremor in her voice betraying her anxiety. "I need to know you understand what you've stumbled upon," he replied, intensity lacing his words. "The staff is powerful. It chooses its bearer for a reason. Do you have the strength to embrace that?" His stormy gaze pierced through her, forcing her heartbeat to quicken. I don't know," she exhaled, the honesty slipping free. This is all so overwhelming. I could destroy everything. I could fail. And if that happens, then we face the consequences together, he interrupted, stepping closer, his presence grounding yet unnerving. Their closeness ignited the air between them, charged with electric potential. She felt the heat radiating off him. What was happening? Was this a connection born of fate, or a distraction from reality? Could she trust him? The fate of her heart and the kingdom hung in the balance. Alara turned away, resolve mixing with doubt. What was she truly capable of? Could she find strength in the flames of uncertainty? The shadows around her seemed to pulse, a reminder that power came with price. A price she was yet to comprehend. What would happen next? Would darkness come, unbidden, to challenge them both? Or would the flame of change set them free? The festival swirled around Alara, vibrant colors and laughter contrasting sharply with the chaos brewing inside her mind. She felt trapped between fear and excitement, the weight of destiny pressing down on her. The supreme staff pulsed in her grip, an anchor in a storm of uncertainty. Theron stood close, his steel-blue gaze penetrating, as if searching for something just below her skin. "You're not just a servant. You're the bearer of the supreme staff," he reminded her, his voice firm but laced with urgency. "You have the power to change everything." "Change what?" she asked, panic creeping in. "If I fail, it could destroy everything." "If you fail," he said, stepping closer, "we face the consequences together." Their proximity ignited something electric, an undeniable heat swirling between them. But trust was a fragile thing, and she wondered if this connection was a blessing or a curse. As they spoke, the shadows shifted nearby. Her heart raced as she caught glimpses of cloaked figures lurking, agents from the council. They had come for her, and time was running out. "They know we're here," Theron warned, his expression tightening. "We need to move. Now." Alara barely had time to respond. They plunged into the alley, the lively festival muffled behind them. "What do they want?" Anxiety gnawed at her. "Power," Theron replied flatly, eyes scanning for threats. "If they gain control over the staff, they'll try to overthrow me. We have to confront them." Alara swallowed. She had lived her life in the shadows, invisible and unnoticed. But now, with the staff's energy thrumming beneath her fingertips, she felt a change in her very core. Maybe she could do this. Theron pulled her closer, urgency radiating from him. "You need to trust in that power. It's within you." Before she could answer, shouts erupted from outside the alley. The council's agents had discovered their position. Fear rushed through her, mixing with the fiery energy building inside. For years, she had watched as the powerful crushed the weak, and now she was thrust into the fold with a chance to plot her own path. "Now!" Theron pulled her back into the bustling street filled with festival-goers. The chaos around them morphed into a battlefield. Alara felt their presence at her back, menacing cloaked figures closing in with sinister intent. "What do we do?" Panic rose again. "Fight!" Theron said, determination radiating from him. "Keep your focus on the staff. Use it." Alara inhaled deeply, feeling the chaotic energy pulsing through the staff resonate in her own heart. "I can do this," she whispered, resolve stealing over her. She lifted her hand, gripping the staff, ready to unleash whatever power she could muster. As the first figure charged toward them, Theron stepped forward, preparing to defend. "Channel your power!" he shouted. Flames ignited at her fingertips, vibrant and alive. Surges of energy coursed through her as she extended her palm. The fire erupted in a brilliant blaze, capturing the attention of the entire market and forcing her attacker back. "I did that," she gasped in disbelief. "Yes! More! You've got this!" Theron shouted, urgency mixing with admiration in his voice. With newfound confidence, Alara unleashed another wave of flames, surrounding herself in a cocoon of energy. The fire danced around her, hot and fierce, reflecting the strength she barely understood. The figures hesitated, momentarily stunned by her display. But just as she began to feel invulnerable, a shadow flicked at the edge of her vision. A second adversary lunged, swift and vicious. Alara's heart raced. Focusing her magic, She redirected the flames, a wall of fire pushing against the oncoming threat. The taste of sulfur and ash filled her mouth as she felt the heat, but it was thrilling, intoxicating. The second attacker stumbled back, shock replacing aggression in his eyes. But the moment of triumph was short-lived. The crowd nearby screamed, and chaos erupted, confusion filling the air as more figures emerged from the shadows. "Stay with me," Theron called, urgency thrumming in his voice. Alara nodded, fear battling with determination. They locked eyes, and in that instant, she knew one thing. Together, they would stand against the tide. Facing the throngs of people who had either fled or watched in shock, Alara steeled herself. She would protect them. "Remember, this is our moment," Theron said, eyes fierce with loyalty. "Don't forget your strength. It's now or never." Sweat dripped from her brow, flames licking at the air around her as she prepared for the next wave. Alara steadied her breath, feeling the warm glow of magic resonate deep within her. How far would she go to protect everyone she loved? Could she truly embrace the fury building inside? Bound by flames and destiny, they faced the darkness together, ready to confront whatever their impending battle would bring. Would they emerge victorious, or would the shadows claim their hopes forever? The moment stretched, tension crackling in the air like static before a thunderstorm. Alara felt the flames surrounding her, a fierce cocoon against the world beyond, but doubt still gnawed at her heart. She had never asked for this power, never imagined she could become a weapon in a battle. "Together!" Theron's voice rang out, pulling her from her uncertainty. His presence behind her, steadfast and reassuring, became her anchor as shouts and screams echoed around them. "Channel your energy. Feel it flow." The ground beneath them shook, and a new wave of figures surged forward, cloaked shadows with a taste for destruction. Alara raised her staff, flames dancing brighter, roaring to life with her determination. She would not stand down. With a deep breath, she let the power consume her, merging her essence with the magic surging through the staff. "Burn!" she shouted, unleashing a torrent of flames. The fire erupted like a volcano, a blaze of warmth and light pushing backward against the encroaching darkness. The first line of attackers faltered, some retreating, but others pressed on, snarling and spit-flecked. "Stay together!" Theron urged again, his voice a fierce incantation against the tide of chaos. A shadow lunged, a dagger flashing in the glow of her fire. Alara pivoted, flames roaring in her direction, and Theron advanced, a shield at her side. He parried the blow with effortless precision, his movements a dance of deadly grace. "I've got your back," he promised as he pushed forward. The promise resonated deep within her, forging a connection that felt stronger with every clash of steel and crackle of magic. Ilara's heart raced, adrenaline surging. She was no longer the timid servant afraid of shadows. She was the fire. She was the light cutting through despair. With each twist of her wrist, she sculpted the flames, stacking them higher, weaving forms that danced and flared, stoking her confidence. "More," Theron encouraged as they fought side by side, a seamless rhythm of flame and steel. His sharp blade glinted in the firelight, and with each strike of his sword, he cleared a path of retreating enemies. "Let it out!" Alara focused her energy, surrendering to the rush of heat that thrummed within. The flames roared, spiraling to form a wall of fire, encircling them both. The attackers hesitated, fear flickering in their eyes as they were held at bay. Then, as if summoned by the chaos, a dark figure stepped forward, a leader, unmistakable in bearing and poise, emanating an aura of malice. He wore a cloak trimmed in silver, and his eyes glimmered with a predatory gleam. "You think you can protect her?" he sneered toward Theron, voice dripping with contempt. "This is futile, King. She is nothing more than a flicker in the dark." "Try me," Alara retorted, emboldened by the burning magic surging within her. She stepped forward, raising the staff high overhead. The flames crackled and sizzled, willing her to unleash them upon this embodiment of darkness. Her heart raced with fear and resolve. The air felt charged, each heartbeat thumping with determination. This wasn't just about her. It was about the future of her people, the promise of freedom from oppression. "I won't let you take anything from us," she shouted, drawing on every ounce of strength and fury. The flames roared in response, transforming into a phoenix rising from ashes, spiraling high toward the heavens. The dark figure chuckled, a cold, cruel sound. "You genuinely believe that? Power is a game for kings, not pawns." He raised his hand, and shadows coalesced, forming dark tendrils that reached toward her. Theron stepped in front of her, sword raised. "You will not harm her," he declared fiercely. As the dark tendrils lunged, Alara's instincts kicked in. With a piercing cry, she thrust the staff forward, flames erupting in a burst of blinding light. It collided with the shadows, illuminating the battlefield with a fiery brightness. The moment felt eternal. The power clashed against darkness, light fighting for a chance to reclaim the night. They were a whirlwind, a cyclone of fire and steel, forging a path through the despair. "Together!" Theron yelled amidst the chaos, their voices echoing, binding them as allies, as warriors. And together they struck. The wall of fire surged forward, consuming the shadows, aflame. The cloaked figure stumbled back, surprise etched on his face as the flames rushed toward him, consuming everything in their path. Yet the fight was far from over. The tide shifted again, and more enemies emerged from the chaos, undeterred, desperate to serve their master's will. "Alara, focus!" Theron shouted, defending against the charging attackers. His silhouette contrasted against the flickering shadows. "Don't lose sight of your power!" She ground her teeth, pushing through doubt and fear, feeling the power within her pulse like a second heartbeat. "I won't." With her focus steady, she summoned the fire again, channeling it deeper, her will igniting the flames that swept across the battlefield like a wild beast. The ground shook as she unleashed her fury upon the encroaching darkness, feeling like a goddess of rebirth in that moment. All her doubts melted away, leaving only raw determination. "You're mine!" she screamed, embracing the fire. Her voice rang out, illuminating shadows, chasing away fear. The flame surged forward, a golden inferno that swallowed everything in its path. The enemy wavered, shadows dissipating under the relentless onslaught, the darkness losing its grip. "Now!" Theron roared, driving forward through the scattering foes, his sword holding true against the last of the assailants. In that brilliant light of flame and courage, they surged together, a united force. As the last of the enemies fell back, the battlefield erupted in flames, a glorifying sunset against the darkening skies above. Together, and they were, an unstoppable force of nature against the tide of despair. Victory washed over Alara like a flood of warmth, igniting her very spirit. They had faced the darkness and emerged victorious. But a new question loomed. What would come next? What did this victory mean for her, for Theron, and for the kingdom they fought to protect? As the embers began to settle, a new dawn appeared on the horizon. They had won the battle, but would they be ready for the greater war ahead? The sounds of battle slowly faded, muffled by the haze of smoke that curled up into the twilight sky. Flames flickered in the fading light, casting long shadows that danced like ghosts of the fallen. Alara stood beside Theron, the chaos still echoing in her ears, her heart pounding with adrenaline and disbelief. They had prevailed, but at what cost? "Is it over?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper, eyes scanning the battlefield for any sign of the enemies that had threatened to engulf them. She clutched the supreme staff tightly, the remnants of magic humming beneath her skin, grounding her amidst the overwhelming emotions. "For now," Theron replied, his voice steady, but it was laced with an underlying tension. He glanced at the horizon, where the setting sun painted the world in fiery hues. "But we both know this isn't finished." Alara's chest tightened. The shadows of the council loomed like specters, and their hunger for power hadn't been extinguished by a single battle. "They'll return," she breathed, swallowing against the surge of fear. "They always do," he agreed, his gaze resolute. "But now, we're stronger. You've proven that tonight." She looked up at him, shock coursing through her. "Me? I was terrified. What if I hadn't been able to conjure the flames? What if—" "Stop," Theron interrupted, a fierce intensity in his stark gaze. "You stood your ground. You wielded a power that many feared. You fought like a true warrior. His words ignited a flicker of pride within her, mingling with the confusion and doubt that loomed. Just moments ago, she had felt unstoppable. Yet, the thrill of victory clashed with the reality of what lay ahead. Would she be able to summon that strength again when it truly mattered? "Where do we go from here?" she asked, trying to gather her thoughts and emotions. "We need a plan. They will come for you, for the staff. Then we prepare. Together." His voice was calm, but it held a promise of something deeper. "But first, we must regroup. The kingdom needs to know they aren't alone in this fight." As they made their way back through the deserted streets, Alara felt a sense of purpose emerging within her. The embers of battle still smoldered, yet in the aftermath, she could feel her strength solidifying like molten metal cooling to steel. She had found herself in the flames, and now she would stand to protect what mattered most. In the Great Hall, the air was thick with tension. The council's presence loomed over everyone, their suspicion palpable. As Alara and Theron entered, the murmurs quieted, all eyes on the pair. The pomp and privilege of the council felt suffocating to her as she stood beside him, an Omega servant turned warrior. "Your Majesty." A council member stepped forward, smooth words hidden behind a facade of diplomacy. "What transpired during the festival?" Theron's expression shifted, a controlled storm brewing behind his calm exterior. "An ambush. They sought to reclaim power through fear." Alara swallowed, heart pounding as she stepped forward, gaining strength from Theron's steadfast presence beside her. "But we fought back. Together." I stood beside him. "They underestimated our resolve." Gasps echoed through the hall, disbelief rippling through the crowd. The council shifted uncomfortably, exchanging glances, as though her words struck a chord of realization. "And this proves what exactly?" Another elder scoffed, skepticism heavy in the air. "That a mere servant?" "She's not a mere servant," Theron's voice thundered, silencing the room. "Alara is the bearer of the Supreme Staff. You all need to understand this. Her power is real. Together, we can challenge the Council's corruption." "I've survived a lifetime of shadows," Alara added, stepping closer to him. "Fear no longer controls me. We must unite, not just for our kingdom, but for everyone oppressed by the Council's greed." The murmurs intensified, fear and uncertainty mingling with curiosity. Would they accept her? Could she stand not only by Theron's side but also in front of the Council, demanding recognition, respect? Theron remained rooted in place, unwavering, as he faced the Council. "We need support, and I ask for it now. The Council must change if we are to have any hope for our future. Fear and oppression cannot be our norm. We owe it to our people, to Alara, to rise above." Silence fell, thick and heavy. Alara's pulse quickened, hope battling against the weight of their skepticism. Would they see the truth? Were they ready for change that shattered the old ways? "The Council must recognize true power," one of the members finally said, his tone measured, but the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes was unmistakable. "But power can corrupt just as easily as it can protect." Alara's heart sank momentarily, her insecurities flashing back. But Theron stepped forward, eyes fierce. "Then let us prove that you can trust us. Give Alara the chance to show her strength. Together, we can build a new future." She nodded firmly, recognizing the strength in his words. "A future built on unity, not fear. A future for all." The tension held, stretching in the room like a taut bowstring, and then, as though a collective breath had been released, murmurs of agreement began. "Let's not squander this chance," another council member interjected. "Let us test the strength of this alliance." Theron clenched his fists, determination radiating from him as he looked at Alara. "Then we will show you our true power, together." Alara felt the fire ignite within her as the council's future hung in the balance. They were allies now, willing or not, and for the first time, she sensed a shift in the tides. Still, doubt lingered like shadows just outside the glow of the flames, but she would not give in. They were warriors, and this fight wasn't over. Not yet. And neither was her legacy. As the meeting concluded, Alara felt a surge of resolve. They would prepare, they would fight, and they would unite their kingdom against the darkness ahead. Outside, Night embraced the kingdom, stars twinkling like distant hopes against the darkness that lingered. Ilara stood beside Theron, watching the twilight blanket the land. "What do you think will happen next?" "We forge ahead," Theron replied, his expression thoughtful yet confident. "Change won't be easy, but it's necessary. We will rise." The weight of his words rested upon her heart, and she nodded, drawing strength from the embers of the past battle. In this moment, they were more than just a king and a chosen bearer. They were change-makers, guardians of a future shimmering with promise. The fight loomed ahead, but she was ready. Together they would walk through the fire and emerge reborn. Fate twisted around them as they prepared for the greater challenges ahead. Would they rise strong enough to face the council's ambitions? Could they truly unite their kingdom against the shadows that threatened to consume it? Dawn broke, its golden light spilling across the kingdom in a warm embrace. Ilara stood on the castle balcony, breathing in the fresh air, feeling a mix of hope and trepidation. Tomorrow they would make their declaration, an alliance that could change everything. "Are you ready?" Theron's voice drifted beside her, steady and reassuring. "As ready as I'll ever be," she replied, forcing a smile though her heart raced. The stakes felt impossibly high. "What if they reject us?" "They won't," Theron assured her, eyes fierce. "You've shown your strength. Now, we stand together against those who wish to divide us." Ilara took a deep breath, grounding herself. "I just wish they would see me for who I am, not just as the bearer of the staff. You are a warrior. You've fought for your rightful place," he insisted, stepping closer, the heat between them palpable. "Thank you," she whispered, feeling the warmth of his presence spark something deeper within her. Before she could ponder it further, thunder rumbled in the distance, dark clouds rolling in ominously. "Storms approach," Theron said, his tone shifting to caution. "We need to prepare the council." As they moved through the castle, a flurry of emotions welled within her. Change felt fragile, yet electrifying, as if they were walking on the edge of a blade. Entering the council chamber, a sea of faces waited, some skeptical, others curious. Ilara stepped forward, determination coursing through her veins. "Thank you for gathering. We stand here united against our oppressors," Theron continued. "We have the chance to forge a new beginning. We invite you to stand with us." Ilara felt the tension in the room thicken. "We must build a kingdom free of corruption, a future for every person," she declared, raising the staff high, its brilliance illuminating doubts in the assembly. "Will you join us?" Theron urged, his voice resonant with urgency. Silence hung heavily before one elder finally spoke. "You've shown great courage, Ilara. This alliance has merit." "Yes, let us support this new path," another voice chimed in. Uncertainty began to dissipate, transforming into murmurs of approval. Ilara's heart raced. Could this truly be the moment of change? The tension shifted, excitement bubbling through the crowd as they leaned toward unity. They had found common ground. Ilara glanced at Theron, whose expression bloomed with pride. "Together, we will rise," she whispered, feeling every word taking root in their shared resolve. Weeks passed, the kingdom thrumming with renewed life and hope. Ilara and Theron led with purpose, their alliance growing stronger. As they surveyed their flourishing home, Ilara's gaze caught the horizon, still filled with the shadows of uncertainty. "What if we tire?" she asked one night, a hint of vulnerability creeping back. Theron turned to her, unwavering. "Then we lean on each other, just as we always have." A smile broke through her uncertainties. They had transformed from mere allies into something deeper over the struggles faced. The winds of change continued to swirl around them, but Ilara felt a steady flame within her, a promise not just to her kingdom but to each other. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with vibrant hope, they stood side by side, ready for whatever lay ahead. If you enjoyed the story of Ilara and Theron, the bearers of change, subscribe for more epic Lycan romances. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a story. And remember, together we can challenge the shadows that threaten our hopes. Thank you for listening.